Hi, I'm Angie O'Gorman from the Specialist Teaching and Learning Service. I'm the Specialist Teacher for Communication and Interaction, and today I'm going to talk to you about recognising emotions and emotional regulation. As we know, children, particularly with ASD, really struggle to manage their emotions and also recognise their emotions. So today I'm going to focus on showing you some resources that can be used to support those children. I'm going to start with some younger resources and then go through to some resources that we can perhaps use at secondary level. So first of all, I'm going to start with a picture and symbol. This is ideal for either EYFS or very early primary. And basically, symbols and pictures are used together to gain some recognition of that particular emotion. I've got a picture here as well of a little girl looking in a mirror, because it's good for children to look into mirrors as well and see their own facial expressions and link them to emotions alongside that. So we've got here a symbol. It says "I see sad," with a photo of someone then who feels quite sad. And what I tend to do is I make these little books. This one's called Faces, and have a variety of different facial expressions in them. So there's a photo of someone happy, angry, sad, etc. And then I have some symbols. And I initially will teach the child those emotions by showing the photo and the symbol together, and perhaps even producing that emotion on my own face as well. As with all the ideas I'm going to show you, it's vital that you actually teach the children what you want them to do with the resources. Don't assume because it looks fairly obvious to us that it's going to be obvious to them. These things need to be explicitly taught. And it's really important to teach positive emotions as well as more negative emotions in a positive framework, so children feel comfortable about all the emotions they want to express. So with this one, basically you go through the book with the child, and it's lovely for the EYFS stage as well, because at that stage some of our ASD children don't want to look at books. So this is a way of easing them into that one-to-one time, looking at a book with an adult as well. So we've got some photos, you show the photo, and then the child says what they can see. So I see, in this case, it is an angry face. Okay, and you could get the child to make an angry face if you wanted to as well. But that's really good in helping to link those facial expressions with the actual emotions, and a really nice thing for those early years children. Second thing I'm going to talk about is a feelings board. You would have seen these in lots of use with ASD children, but this is a particularly good one for young children again. I like feelings boards because they're particularly good at helping children, because the adult can also model how they're feeling, and also peers can model how they're feeling. So basically you'd start by teaching the emotions, a variety of emotions, symbols at the top, and then you've got I feel at the bottom. And this is really nice as a circle time activity. When I worked in special school, I would have done this with my whole class, but obviously mainstream classes are a lot bigger. So I recommend you perhaps have the ASD child and a couple of other children that would benefit, or maybe someone that is good at modelling and would enjoy the activity. So I would introduce it with the young ones with a song, so something like, "Hello James, how are you? Hello James, how are you? Hello James, how are you? How are you today?" And then James would come up and say maybe, "I feel sad," or happy, or however he's feeling. Like I said, this is really good as well because the adult can model. The adult can start by saying, "Oh, hello everyone, I feel today, oh, I'm a bit tired today. I feel tired because I didn't have much sleep last night." And so you've got the adult actually modelling what to do there, and also giving a reason. And later on, the children can be taught to give reasons, and it becomes a good discussion point. So that's a really good idea. Yeah, and like I said, particularly good for for peers as well to model to the ASD child as well. And really important as well that positive emotions are on there as well. So happy's on there as well. And you might talk about why you're feeling happy. So that child gets to talk about all their feelings, and that's developing their communication skills as well. Oh, so that was the feelings board. And so now moving on to what's called an emotional regulation key fob. So basically this works in a similar way to the resources I've showed you so far. We've got symbols representing the emotions, but also on the other side, so you've got your symbols there, but then on the other side you've got strategies of how to manage those feelings. This is really good for those children that have meltdowns and really struggle in the moment to be able to manage themselves. So what is happening here, it's the adult who is basically regulating the child's emotions and giving them self-soothing strategies to help them. So for example, a child might suddenly be getting a bit agitated, and it's ideal for the adult to jump in and say, oh, I can see you're feeling a little bit angry. Let's have a look at what we can do. We can go for a walk, we can have a story, or we can go on the sensory ball, and then takes them off to what they choose. It's really good this, because you'd hope eventually that the child would be coming up as they begin to feel that way as well and starting to regulate their own emotions. But it's also giving them clear choices of ways that they can help themselves and self-soothe. Okay, so that's the emotional regulation key fob. Now, the zones of regulation really links quite well. If you've been using the emotional regulation key fob, it's kind of the next stage up. At this stage, you'd expect the child to be more independent at recognising their emotions, and they're learning how to regulate them. So you've gone from an adult sort of telling them how they're feeling and offering them strategies, and they're beginning to learn through that. So this later on in primary, you can introduce this. Now the zones is quite different because it's in colours. So basically we have a blue zone, a green zone, a yellow zone and a red zone. And the blue zone is kind of a low state of alertness. So this can be linked into the ASD child's sensory profile as well. It may be that they're feeling a bit sluggish that day, a little bit bored, a little bit hard to motivate. So we call that being in the blue zone. The yellow zone is that stage where the child is getting a little bit niggly. It could be a little bit agitated, going towards anger, or it could be that the child is becoming a little bit overexcited and heading to the point where they'll be so excited they won't be able to work anymore. So it incorporates all that. Then the red zone is that point where we hope we don't get to really. We've hoped we jumped in with strategies in the yellow zone. The red zone is the point where we've got to stop and we've got to deal with that child who's obviously overloaded and overwhelmed. And the green zone is what we call the area that's for optimal learning. So this is where the child feels happy, they feel calm, and because they're relaxed, they're ready to learn. So what happens with this is, again, it needs to be explicitly taught. You teach the child what the zones mean. You make sure the zones are available for them to use. And basically you can have regular check-ins. So it might be, for example, that in the morning the child comes in and you ask them to put where they are, and they might say, oh, they're feeling a bit agitated because perhaps they've got out of bed late, a little bit late for school, or perhaps they're just getting a bit anxious about coming to school. So at that stage you would offer some strategies. Okay, so it may be, you might like to go and talk to an adult for a little while before you start school. You might go and do your sensory circuit before you start. Okay, so you're jumping in with those strategies, and eventually with this, it is hoped that the child will be kind of regulating themselves, will be saying sort of, oh, putting themselves in yellow and then telling the adult, oh, I'd like to go and bounce on the trampoline for a little while. Okay, so that's developing towards that independence of regulating your emotions. And the zones are really good because they can be differentiated as well. This is the symbol version, but as the child gets older, you can have versions where the child is actually deciding what makes them feel good and what makes them feel motivated to learn. So they can write their own strategies in there, and they can check in with a TA, say how they're feeling, and then decide what they want to do. Maybe take some deep breaths, as in this one here, take a break, which is a regular one from secondary school. So that's the zones. And that's a really, like I say, a really good one. I really like that one. The Incredible 5-point scale. This one's been around for a considerable amount of time, and I know lots of you already use it in schools. I suppose one of the key differences between the zones and the Incredible 5-point scale is that you're basically given the child a number to identify with. And the idea behind this at the time was, rather than have lengthy discussions about how you feel, the child could quickly rate their feelings from 1 to 5, 1 being they felt really calm and relaxed, 5 being they were totally ready to explode or have a meltdown. And the child could actually rate their feelings quickly rather than having that discussion process. So often you see these in schools on the children's tables, and the child's just put a disc or a peg where they are, and then the adult that's walking by can actually say, oh, I can see you're number 3. Would you like a break for 5 minutes? And can jump in with strategies that way. And again, you would hope with this that eventually the child would start to come up with their own strategies and learn those skills to regulate their own emotions. But yeah, the key difference there is really, the idea is the quickness about the number and less of a focus of the child sort of choosing strategies. It's more of a focus of the adult and the child working together to get those strategies going. Right, the last two I'm going to talk to you about are some resources by Anna Freud. I really like these two because they are geared towards our older children, and often when we're talking about emotional regulation, all the symbol stuff, particularly in mainstream school, is applicable to primary school, but once you get to secondary school, sometimes children don't feel very confident in using that in front of their peers. So these are more simple resources that can be used in secondary and are more discreet. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the anxiety thermometer. As we know, with ASD, anxiety is a massive issue, and secondary children in particular experience anxiety and don't always express it very well. So this deals with all the different feelings of anxiety in a really broken down way, and it actually highlights some of the features. Like there's one here that says, I've got repetitive thoughts, and I'm feeling really unfocused. So it's actually breaking down those feelings of anxiety. So the idea is that the child will sit with an adult, say where they are, and then the adult can help them to come up with strategies. And it's here that cognitive strategies can be used really well. I mean, if the child's having repetitive thoughts, are they catastrophizing something? Do we need to talk about it and minimize those repetitive thoughts and help them, or distract them and help them think about something else? Also, again, you can use things like deep breaths, time out, but the key with Anna Freud's resources is that it opens up that dialogue with the secondary student and gets them talking, and it's a visual that helps them to express how they're feeling. This one here, the emotional check-in, a little bit more complicated in that it involves writing. However, I really like this one because particularly when secondary children come into school, often they've had a difficult time at home that morning, they come in a bad mood and they can't express it. So this is a really good way of saying to the child, right, okay, have a look at this. And then they can have a write down of how they're feeling. And then afterwards, this provokes that conversation of, right, what's the matter? How can we help you? How can we move on from this today? And this is a really good one because it comes differentiated. So there's one with lots of different emotion words, feeling frustrated, feeling angry, feeling worried. And there's one with less so. But also the child can come up with their own feelings if they want as well. They don't have to be on the list. And it just says, today I am feeling, and they write in whatever they're feeling because, and they might write what's happened that morning before school, or what's happened in the school day, or at lunchtime. And then that trusted adult at school has the opportunity to sit down with them and use this as a conversation starter. Secondary children in particular really struggle with initiating, saying, oh, I'm feeling like this happened today and I'm upset. So this is a brilliant way of getting that conversation going. The adult can sit there and read it and then start that conversation with the child. So that's all the emotional regulation resources I'm going to show you today. I hope you found that useful, and good luck with using them in school.